Last day of DBT Coalesce. I hope everybody here has taken away as much from this conference, if not more, than I have. I know it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up last day strong. So thank you all for joining me. My name is Rya Sciban. I'm the head of product here at SelectStar, and today I'll be talking about kind of our experiences and what we've seen with many organizations and customers being able to successfully manage thousands or more of DBT models. So quick show of hands, who here has 500 or more DBT models? Okay, most of you, 1,000? 2,000? Okay, 5? Anyone? All right, a few folks definitely have a lot of models. So for you with lots of models, you've probably seen some of the challenges that we've been going through. Maybe you're already tackling some of them with things that we talk about or have other ideas that have worked well for you. Please do come up and share. For people who have fewer, maybe you're starting to see some of the problems or you are anticipating and thinking ahead, which is great. So be this guy, be proactive, start today. So what we'll cover today, I'll talk a little bit about me and SelectStar, but really that's not the focus. But we will talk more about the challenges that people see when they have a growing number of DBT models and what that means across the organization, and some real-world tips, tricks, things that we've seen that have been successful in helping organizations scale. So just a little bit about me. Once a data person, always a data person. I was a data analyst in a past life, but then I turned to the dark side of product. And I haven't really looked back, but I do still have a data person at my core. I've been building tools for data practitioners, data teams for over 10 years. My favorite language is SQL. My favorite function is union. It is very underrated and very powerful, and sometimes is exactly what you want. Also the Postgres JSON functions, because if you've ever tried to process unstructured data in most databases, it is awful. And my favorite data tool, throwback, is Periscope Data, which I had the benefit of helping to build and be one of the super users of. So that's a little about me. That's my very cute dog. I will talk about him forever and show you a million photos after the presentation if you want. So SelectStar is a automated metadata management solution, which is just a fancy way of saying data catalog, data lineage, and usage insights across your entire data stack. It helps to support data discovery and data governance efforts. I won't get into too much right now. We can talk more after or come to our booth 325 in the expo hall. So let's start by talking a little bit about who has all of these models. Aside from everybody here in this room who apparently have 5,000 models, that's a lot. I definitely want to learn more about you. What we've seen working with customers and clients in the space, generally, doesn't matter when you were founded, doesn't really matter what industry you're in, everybody has lots of data. Every tool is generating lots of data. Everything is tracked. There's way more data about me out there than I'm really that comfortable with, and I try not to think about it that much. But what actually is important and what the thread has been is larger organizations. So organizations that have generally 1,000 employees or more. My hypothesis here is that these are the organizations that have the bandwidth to get the right value from all of this data, given all the effort that it takes to ingest, to process, to model, and to create analytics on top of it. So everybody has lots of data. It's getting easier to get value from data, but you also need the organization to be accepting, to be willing, to be advancing on those analytic efforts and bringing that into all parts of the business. So why do people have so much data? We talked a little bit about it, many sources of data. Salesforce has lots of data, HubSpot, all your customer information, my Fitbit watch here, not Fitbit, Garmin watch here, that's tracking everything that I do. There's just so many sources of data out there, and that's one of the biggest drivers of having a lot of models. But in addition to that, the other thing that we see is when there are many lines of businesses, when you start having kind of whole organize chunks and entities, especially when you look at acquisitions. That's when you start seeing very clear delineations across the business, and you really start to see a lot of data that's duplicated or similar across these different categories. And the third is complex reporting needs. This could mean that you have lots of data, you're bringing it all together, you have to bring it all together at the right point, or maybe your data is slow and suddenly you're injecting layers to make things faster, or you're injecting layers to simplify and make the logic easier to follow in your data pipeline, and you start adding these layers and adding these layers, and it starts looking a little crazy. It's not just you. I want to talk a little bit more about that. So most people have some sort of raw data, maybe sitting in a bronze layer. This could be your production data. This could be your application usage data. This could be third-party data coming in. That's nice. And I've got my dimensions dates function. That's super helpful. I'm doing a little bit of cleaning in my silver layer. I'm normalizing those dates. Maybe some URLs are getting parsed, but basically making sure that that data passes a first level of cleaning. So from there, I recognize that actually some of these tables are snapshots. They're basically like a current state. But that doesn't help me as an analyst, so I have to snapshot that data every day so I can capture what a historical state is. I can see my user growth over time. So now I've got my daily snapshot, which I then need to aggregate into another summary so that I understand what the holistic view, analytical view of these models and tables are. So I've got another layer, and then I'm aggregating all of that. I'm putting a bunch of metadata together so that I have nice tables for the end business user to be able to do analysis off of, a table where they can answer 80% of questions on a given topic. I can't pretend they'll never have to join these tables because they absolutely will, but it does get you a lot of the way in some of the standardized reporting. So that goes into dashboards. And this is just a simple example, and I already have 5 layers going on here. And this is just, say, maybe some core one part of my business. If I'm working on a different part of my business and I want to reference this user summary table, suddenly I have my own large pipeline that looks like this or bigger. It is referencing user summary, and the number of models that I need to be able to understand, lineage I need to be able to trace, depends on all of this. So it gets really big really quickly. So scaling is hard. It's not impossible. But one thing to keep in mind as you think about scaling, don't just do it because. Right? You have to think about what is the value that you are bringing to the business. Sure, it's fun to make things fast. It's fun to make things really efficient. But does the business need it? Are your warehouse costs or processing costs or storage costs justified? Is your time actually best spent working on this? You need to find the right balance for your business. My second piece of general advice is you can't just buy a tool and say, great, this is going to work, everything's going to be perfect now, because it's not. Most solutions, you can throw people at the problem. It's expensive, but you can throw people at the problem. You can put people and process and start to change behaviors. That can work too, depending on the challenges that you have. But many solutions, you do need to get all 3 together to get the most effect. And that means you're talking to teams, you're talking to various stakeholders, you're getting buy-in, you're defining these things, you're iterating on processes, and it's really a culture, really, that you need to drive and needs to exist at an organization. So let's talk about some of the top challenges that we've seen across the board. The first is discovery. You have thousands, you have 5,000 models. It is hard to know. Which one do I use? Does it exist? There's just a pile. Second is complexity and change management. Again, you have a lot of data. It is getting modeled all over the place. There's references, sources being used across different projects. It's hard to understand where that data is coming from. It is easy to break things, and your stakeholders are not happy with you. And third is data governance. Just basically the sheer number of assets that you need to manage, need to set owner, need to document, need to organize. That's just a lot the more that you have. So let's talk a little bit about each of the three. Data discovery. How do people know what data exists? When you are small, when you don't have a lot of data, it's easy. Either the data is there or it's not. But as you grow, as you get more, suddenly maybe you have 5 different user-ish looking tables. Which one is right? People start using the wrong ones. They start getting wrong analysis. They start arguing about whose user metric, DAU, is right. And you're wasting a lot of time as an organization, or you're making the wrong decisions because people don't know what is the right data to use. So challenge number 1 is a big problem, but there are lots of things that can help. The first one is, you're all DBT practitioners. You know DBT has lots of great naming conventions. They have lots of guides on this. Having a clear hierarchy and folder naming convention, whether that is staging, intermediate, mart, which is one of the DBT best practices, or you're grouping by your purpose or a business unit or a source, defining what that grouping is going to be, and then maintaining that and keeping that consistent. The second is using really good conventions for naming assets themselves, following an agreed upon pattern, so people know what to name things, people know when they see any sort of asset, what that asset is. They already have a general idea. If you do nothing else but naming conventions and organization, this is the most powerful one. If you are consistent, if you are clear about what these conventions are, it will go a long way, if nothing else, because the name is the one thing that people will always see. So you do need to enforce these naming conventions. It's great to have examples and guidelines for the organization if more and more people are creating and accessing data assets. So communicating these conventions is the other part that you also need to follow up on. The second main tool that we see across the board is the data catalog. The data catalog is not just for the experts. The data catalog is for all of your data consumers and your data stakeholders. Generally, they provide end-to-end visibility across your source databases, your data warehouse, dbt, your BI layer. So there's one place that people can go to look up what data exists, what does it mean, how is it calculated and computed, that one kind of source of truth for the entire organization, and to provide that data context. So dbt does support wonderful documentation on models. However, the catalog looks beyond what exists in your dbt ecosystem and brings that visibility to all of the data assets. Your second challenge that we've seen a lot of is complexity and change management. When your team is small, when you don't have that many models, you're not complicated, you understand what's there. You've probably built 70% of it, if not all of it. You know what's gonna break when you rename a column, or if there's any dashboards using it. But as you grow, it gets hard and grow and grow and grow, especially if you have a lot of stakeholders, if different teams are using the data models that you are building, or vice versa, it gets much harder to understand where data is coming from, how it's being confused, and you turn into Boromir. And it just is a giant laborious task to figure out how to use anything. Or the other side of the problem is if you don't have visibility into everything that depends on pieces of your data pipeline, core data models, you change a column name or a data type, you turn into Brittany, and you end up breaking things. It could be your executive team's favorite dashboard. It could be another core model that is used by the finance team. Who knows? But fortunately, there are also lots of tools that can help you avoid becoming either Boromir or Brittany. The first one is data lineage tools. So dbt has wonderful DAGs that you can explore, table level, column level. Again, that is primarily looking at your dbt ecosystem. But what I really want to know is how many dashboards that the marketing team uses, that the finance team uses, that the product team uses, that are gonna break and be impacted when I make a model change. So data lineage tools are fantastic to help give you that great visibility end to end and surface any data quality issues that might be upstream of things that you are updating or changing. So if you look at a dashboard and you see that, hey, that number looks wrong, you can look and say, hey, is there anything upstream in my lineage that, that Bob changed and suddenly is causing my dashboard to break? Data lineage can be very powerful when combined with observability, with ownership, with usage, to provide a lot of insights. Additionally, you can look at things like insights and say, hey, is there any usage insights, and say, hey, this table has, maybe it has 20 downstream dashboards. But if no one uses those dashboards, or no one queries this table, I can deprecate it, I can archive it, I can save some warehouse costs, I can save some compute costs. And sometimes you can prune entire branches that don't need to be run anymore. And you're saving your business and your company time, and you. The other category is there's a lot of different tools that help in change management in general. Data lineage is certainly one of them, where you can see what depends on the thing that I'm going to change, who uses those things, who owns those things, who do I need to reach out to. There are data impact reports that before you make your PR can tell you exactly what those dependencies are, so you can go and check them and make sure that nothing will break, combined with usage insights, where if something is dependent but nobody uses it, do you care? Usually no. And finally, there are a number of tools, observability and otherwise, that help detect changes in your data, in your schemas, that can help after the fact. It's not as good as catching it before you break something, but it is also good to know proactively when you do. There also are a number of processes, so definitely bringing into your change management process, reviewing your downstream dependencies and making sure that those are visible and are tracked, and then defining a process to notify impacted users. If you're changing a core model, there's gonna be people impacted. How are you reaching out to them? Is it on Slack? Are you emailing them? How do you know who to reach out to? And how do you not spam people? If you just have one Slack channel where all the data changes get posted, probably no one's reading them because they have a bunch of other email notifications to read. So you need to make sure that any notifications you do send are targeted and relevant to the users that you are sending them for. So the third challenge that we see is around data governance. When you have a lot of data, or when you have sensitive data, you need to organize this data, you need to document it, you need to own it, you need to curate it, you need to manage and enforce quality of this data, you need to ensure that there's proper access granted for it. There's a lot. You're looking at managing everything across your data stack. That's a lot of tables, that's a lot of fields, 5,000 tables. I shudder to imagine how many columns are on those tables. It's gonna be a lot. It's just a lot. There's just a sheer number, even if it's not a complex or hard thing to do, but doing it 5,000 times, it's a lot. So there are a lot of tools that help a variety of things when it comes to data governance, but the main thing that you need to think about at your organizations is what policies need to exist to ensure that you're collecting data, processing data, and using data effectively and safely. That's the core question. Now, who needs to be part of those conversations, of those decisions, and the continuous conversations as your needs evolve and change? And thinking very strongly about what needs to be dictated versus suggested. The more that you dictate, the more hoops that you're making for people to jump through as they use data. Sometimes those hoops are necessary. Sometimes it can just be a strong suggestion where there can be some leeway. And then some forum for people to continually discuss as your needs evolve and change, and as people adopt kind of these new policies. So there's a lot that can be done. Some of the lowest hanging fruit that we see is defining and enforcing your data contracts for your most important data. This is ensuring that there's owners for key assets, they are defined, and you have like freshness and quality SLAs associated with those data products. Secondly, you do need to define data stewards and the key responsibilities of those stewards and what domains you need in your organization. And then defining those key naming conventions and organizing and tagging data, which is kind of a foundation for a lot of the data governance processes. So there's a lot of tools that help here: data catalog, data warehouse permissioning, data masking, tag propagation. It really depends on kind of where your problem is and what specific thing you're trying to solve. I will walk through a very concrete example that we have from one of our customers, but I'm going to quickly talk about organization and tagging. This is, as when I was an analyst, this was my least favorite topic because I just wanted to build stuff and I didn't really care about tagging it and putting it in a folder. But when you have 5,000, when you have 1,000 models, who knows how many dashboards, this is one of the most important things for people to be able to discover the data that you create, the value that you're creating, or the dashboards that you're creating. So being able to organize your data, whether that's in nice single layer, that's just by business group or by source, you need to define what these are. You can certainly iterate on them. You're not gonna be 100% accurate the first time, and that's okay. Or maybe you have a 2-layer system where you need a little bit more granularity and the marketing team has lots of data and you want some more levels in between to categorize the different data products you have supporting marketing. So that's an internal conversation. You need to balance both the technical side as well as the business side and how they are looking at and understanding data. The last example we have here is a sensitive data categorization. So if you are storing emails, if you're storing addresses, sensitive data, health data, financial data, which probably a lot of you are, there's a lot of sensitive data. There are regulations that you need to adhere to. The simplest way is just a Boolean: yes, sensitive, no, this is fine. The next level is you can add some level of granularity. So you can say, is it is it public, is it low sensitivity, is it medium, high, and have different rules associated with that. Or as you can see here, one of our customers has a very clever 2-tier system where they have both that sensitivity level classification, but then there's a category of that classification, which makes it a lot easier for people to go and request access to sensitive data for a specific use case without having to request access to 20 tables at the same time and generate 20 requests. So how does it all fit together? Because there's a lot of moving pieces that all kind of come together more holistically to make this experience much more manageable. So everybody has data coming in on the left. This is your production data, your Salesforce, HubSpot third-party data, your application data. One of the most beneficial things to do is tagging data at the source when you ingest it, because then you can trace where that data is going and propagate all that tagging and organization, which means you don't have to manually tag 5,000 tables. This is also where you really should start enforcing your naming conventions, because this is the first time that data is in the system. If anybody's going to come and say, oh, where did this data come from? You want them to see that clean, well-organized name so they understand exactly where it's coming from. So start at the beginning. Once you've got it in your warehouse, you're modeling it with dbt. You should continue to enforce your naming conventions as you create your layers of models on top of all of that so that it continues to remain clear what these tables are. And as you do that, you'll want to propagate your tags through lineage. There are a number of tools. You can propagate based on whether the data is used at all. You can propagate based on whether the data is used as is or passed through. Basically, and there are lots of tools that help to identify that. So you want to make sure everything is named and tagged and organized as you model and work on that information. Once it's in your warehouse, you can use warehouse access controls to restrict access, partially restrict to mask data based on those tags, based on the database permissions that you have set up. And so when you query the results, they are masked as well, and that's all great. And once you push it into your BI tools, or maybe you're querying directly, or into your catalog, this is when your tags, your organization tags, can be very helpful in surfacing data in the right organization for people to be able to discover and use the data, use the models, use the dashboards that you guys are spending a lot of time curating and putting together. So there's a lot of pieces across the entire pipeline. You don't need to do everything on day 0, but pick somewhere, pick the thing that's going to be the most impactful for you and your challenges, and start there. So some things that we have seen that have been helpful. One is you probably already have all that data, 5,000 models, 1,000 models. It's a lot of models to go and tag. Throw a tagging party. Make it fun, right? Get it wrapped up, but get some volunteers, have some fun together, and just get it done. Second is you do want to tag data at the source, and you want to have smart defaults. The more that you can make those defaults default and easy, no-brainers, no effort for the various people who are creating data at your organization, the better it will be. And think about how to enforce your data contracts so that new or core data is documented, owned, tagged, organized, all the things that you need at your organization. And finally, having an escalation path for ambiguous cases, because I guarantee you, you will have them. Not everything needs a clear answer, but you do need a way to talk about those cases. And then finally, for tooling, there's a lot of tools that are out there that can help with the various steps and the various pieces of this. We've had customers who built a lot of internal tooling for defaults, for naming conventions. They have created their own DBT configuration, basically, so that all teams who are creating DBT projects and models all follow those basic conventions. Mask and query results to make sure you have the right people accessing the right data and sensitive data is appropriately managed. Data warehouse access policies, catalog, tag propagation. There's a lot. So today we talked about the 3 key challenges: discovery, complexity and change management, and data governance. This is everything on a slide, so you can take photos of it. If you take one picture, this is the one. But we talked about all these different technologies, but also processes, and you are the people that kind of brings all of that together. So back to SelectStar. So SelectStar is a metadata management solution that helps with all 3 of these challenges, and I'll very briefly talk about how. So when it comes to discovery, SelectStar will sync documentation from all of your systems, automatically create a centralized catalog to help you fill in documentation, AI documentation generation for your dashboards, for any tables in your warehouse, for your DBT models. And it layers both end-to-end lineage and usage insights on top of that, so you can get full context of who is using your data and how it's being used and where data is coming from. It also helps with change management. So there's a number of different tools, including schema change detection, an automatic DBT impact report that can hook into your GitHub repos and create an impact report and show you exactly which dashboards and tables are going to probably break when you change your models, as well as the ability to send notifications to specific targeted groups like downstream owners or top dashboard users associated with a specific asset. And on the data governance side, you can define owners within SelectStar. We do have also data quality, so we integrate with DBT tests or Monte Carlo or other data observability tools to both show issues on a specific asset, but also to show issues on upstream assets. So if you're looking at a dashboard in SelectStar, you can come in and see, oh, okay, this order payments, which is upstream, has a data quality issue, and that's probably why my dashboard looks broken. So SelectStar gives you that visibility and also allows you to tag and will propagate tags based on lineage for you. So if you tag data at the source, it will be propagated all the way through based on that lineage. So hopefully you learned a little bit about today. Maybe you saw some mirror in your own challenges, in your organization's challenges. Maybe you saw some things that you are already doing today and want to do more of. But hopefully you took away a few tips and can start scaling better and start tackling those challenges with managing all of those tables and models. So thank you very much. I'm Rya.